The restaurant fell silent. Every fork froze midair, every whisper vanished. At the center table sat Ethan Blake, the cold, untouchable CEO of a billion-dollar company. No one dared disturb him, until that moment. A little girl, no older than 6, stood before him in a faded pink dress, holding a paper flower. Her shoes were torn, her hands trembling. "Excuse me, sir," she said softly, "can I have lunch with you, Daddy?" The word Daddy echoed through the marble halls like a thunderclap. Cameras from nearby tables started recording, expecting anger, embarrassment, something dramatic. Ethan blinked, confusion flashing across his face. He had no children. No one dared speak. The waiter froze mid-step. Then the girl added, "Mommy says you used to smile before you got rich." Gasps rippled around the room. Ethan's face paled. For the first time in years, he looked lost. He glanced around, half expecting a prank. But the little girl's eyes, pure, hopeful, and sad, were painfully real. Instead of sending her away, Ethan did something no one expected. He stood up, pulled out the chair beside him, and said quietly, "I'd be honored if you joined me." The crowd murmured in disbelief as the poor little girl climbed onto the chair, smiling for the first time that day. Ethan didn't know it yet, but this lunch would change everything. Ethan Blake had shared tables with presidents, investors, and celebrities. But never with a child who looked at him like he mattered. The little girl sat across from him, clutching the paper flower as if it were a treasure. The waiter hesitated, unsure what to do. Ethan gave a small nod. "Bring her anything she wants," he said, his voice gentler than anyone had ever heard. "What would you like to eat?" he asked. She looked at the menu, eyes wide. Can I just have a sandwich? Mommy says fancy food isn't for people like us." The words hit him harder than he expected. He smiled faintly. "Today, it is." As they ate, Ethan found himself asking questions, something he hadn't done in years. Her name was Lila. She lived nearby with her mother. Her father had left before she could remember. "But Mommy says Daddy used to work in a big building, like yours," she added innocently, swinging her legs under the table. Ethan froze. Something about her eyes, hazel with golden flecks, felt hauntingly familiar. When the waiter brought dessert, Lila pushed her small plate toward him. "You can have the first bite," she said shyly. "Mommy says sharing makes people happy." He hesitated, then took a spoonful. It was the sweetest thing he'd tasted in years. For the first time since his empire began, Ethan laughed. A real, unguarded laugh. But as Lila smiled back, he couldn't shake the feeling that fate had led her to him for a reason, one far deeper than chance. Outside, unnoticed by anyone, a woman stood across the street watching through the glass, tears in her eyes. Ethan couldn't focus the rest of the afternoon. The little girl's laughter lingered in his mind like music he didn't know he'd missed. When lunch ended, Lila thanked him with a hug so tight, it shattered something cold inside him. "You're really kind, mister," she whispered. "Mommy said people change when they get rich, but maybe you didn't forget." Before he could respond, she ran off toward the door, where a woman stood frozen, watching. Their eyes met through the glass. And for the first time in over 7 years, Ethan forgot how to breathe. "Claire," he whispered. She looked the same, just older, wearier. Her clothes were plain, her hands rough from work. But those eyes, he would have known them anywhere. Lila ran straight into her arms. "Mommy." He shared his dessert, she said proudly. Claire smiled weakly at her daughter, then looked back at Ethan. The world around them blurred. Patrons whispered, phones clicked, but neither of them cared. Ethan stepped outside. "She's yours?" Claire nodded slowly. "Ours, Ethan." The words hit like lightning. Memories rushed back, late nights, broken promises, a woman he once loved but left for ambition. She'd been pregnant. He never knew. She didn't want anything, Claire said softly. She just wanted to meet the man her mother told her stories about, the man who used to dream instead of chase. Ethan's throat tightened. Why didn't you tell me? Because you were already gone, she whispered. Lila tugged at his sleeve. You look sad, Daddy. Don't be sad. We can all eat together next time. For the first time, Ethan didn't feel like a CEO. He felt like a man finally meeting the part of his heart he'd left behind. That night, Ethan didn't return to his penthouse. He sat in his car outside the small apartment building where Claire and Lila lived, watching the flicker of light through their window. For years, success had been his compass, every decision, every sacrifice made for the empire he built. But now, for the first time, he questioned if it had all been worth the cost. He remembered the day he left Claire, young, ambitious, convinced that love could wait while dreams couldn't. But dreams had come true, and love had slipped away. The next morning, Ethan walked into the office late. His assistants whispered, his partners stared. But he didn't care. He canceled his meetings and called his driver. We're going somewhere else today, he said. He stopped at a small bakery, the same one Claire once adored. Inside, he found her working behind the counter, flour on her hands, hair tied back. She froze when she saw him. Ethan, what are you doing here? He took a deep breath. Apologizing. For everything. She blinked, uncertain. I chased money like it would fill the emptiness, he continued. But it didn't. Then Lila called me Daddy, and suddenly I felt something real again. Claire's eyes softened, but she stayed quiet. I don't expect forgiveness, he said. But I want to be part of her life, of your life, if you'll let me. For a moment, the only sound was the hum of the ovens. Then a small voice came from the doorway. Mommy, look. He came back. Lila ran up and hugged Ethan's leg. Claire's eyes filled with tears. Maybe, just maybe, some broken things were meant to be mended. Weeks passed, and Ethan Blake's name began appearing in the news again. But this time, not for business deals or corporate power plays. Billionaire CEO funds free meal program for underprivileged children, the headlines read. No one knew that the inspiration behind it was a 6-year-old girl with a paper flower. Every Sunday, Ethan visited the little bakery. Sometimes he helped Claire serve customers, sometimes he sat with Lila drawing pictures of a family they were slowly becoming. He'd never realized how much joy lived in ordinary moments, spilled flour on the floor, Lila's giggles, Claire's quiet smile as she poured coffee. One afternoon, while closing the shop, Lila handed him the same paper flower she'd carried that first day. It's a lucky flower, she said proudly. It helped me find my daddy. Ethan knelt down, his eyes misty. No, sweetheart, he whispered. You helped me find myself. Claire watched from behind the counter, tears glistening. She had built a life out of strength and silence, but now she saw something in Ethan's eyes she hadn't seen in years, truth. When he reached for her hand, she didn't pull away. Let's not rush, she said softly. Just, start again. He nodded, smiling through emotion. I'd like that more than anything. As the sun dipped low, the three of them stepped outside, the golden light wrapping around them like forgiveness itself. Ethan Blake had once been the man who had everything except a heart. Now, he was simply a father, a partner, a man who understood that the richest moments in life aren't found in boardrooms, but in love, laughter, and a child's voice saying, Daddy, let's go home.